Welcome back to Creative Therapy Umbrella. This is a place where we talk about all different types of creative approaches to therapy. My name's Kate Shannon. I am a licensed creative arts therapist, and I will be your host for today. Today's episode is actually a part two. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, I highly suggest listening to it. That one is all about the why of bringing in parents and caregivers as co-therapists, how we can help children and teens with bringing and supporting their support systems, essentially. So today's episode dives into the how-to of that. How do we bring parents and caregivers in? What does that look like? What are some tips? What are some strategies? I walk you through a bunch of different things in today's episode, from paperwork to active strategies to use in sessions. So it's a great episode. Stick around and let's get creative.
Welcome to Choose Your Own Adventure, a day in the life of a therapist. You're a therapist heading into the office at 9 a.m. You open the door, fire up your coffee, and are immediately met with your first decision of the day. Option A, you frantically dig for last week's intake form, mentally retrace whether you ever sent that questionnaire, try to push out 10 session reminders, and attempt to reschedule 4 clients using your mind's eye, because let's be honest, that beautiful planner that you bought, still blank. Or option B, you open your laptop, sip your delicious coffee, and see everything lined up like a dream. Intakes, done. Reminders, sent. Notes, teed up. And your crisp, clean calendar, just begging to be gently rescheduled, not wrestled with. If you choose B, you're using simple practice. If you choose A, we love you and you deserve better. Make the switch, your future self will high-five you right after they finish their notes on time. Simple practice, your day simplified. Simple Practice is offering a 7-day free trial, then 70% off for 4 months, plus a free 30 days of AI Note Taker. That's right, if you sign up in the month of July, you'll get a 7-day free trial, then 70% off for 4 months, plus a free 30 days of AI Note Taker. Sign up today at the link in our show notes or head to creativetherapyumbrella.com/simplepractice. Again, you can check this out in our show notes or head to creativetherapyumbrella.com/simplepractice.
All right, let's get into strategies and intervention. So we know the why we're doing this. We know a few quick tips for success of if we're going to bring this in, what to do. Now we're going to talk about how on earth do we do this. These are just a few strategies, just a handful. There's a million more, but let's dive into these strategies. Okay, strategies and interventions. How do we make this happen? Esteem building statements, attunement, tracking, reflecting statements, rupture repair, co-regulation. We're going to go through a few of these. These are just a few ideas to bring in. These are some of my favorite ones because they show a wide range of different things that we can do with parents and caregivers in our sessions or outside of our sessions. So esteem building statements, I wish this was plastered on buses and just like the most accessible information for everybody to hear, because I think it's very powerful. But if you don't know, an esteem building statement is a statement that focuses on supporting the inner motivation of a child and their inner world of some sort of experience. This helps a child build their internal motivation for completing and engaging in experiences versus always looking for external validation and motivation. What that sounds like. So to paint the picture, okay, we know what color paints we have. Now let's make the picture of it, okay? An esteem building would sound like this. What I usually compare it to is praise. Praise is what we often do and what like culturally we do all the time. And so an example would be a child is playing the keyboard, turns to you and says, "Did you like that song? Do you like it?" And you say, "Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Great job. That was so good. I loved it." Of course we want to say that. We want to make them feel good. But what that does is teaches kids that their measure of worth is externally validated. So the child is saying, is this enough? And the outside external validator is saying, yes, I confirm. That teaches children, I need to look outside to get confirmation that something is enough. We don't want to do that all the time. That's important, yes, but if we only do that, then we're building validation comes from outside of us. We know how dangerous that is for self-esteem. If we give validation to everything outside of us, we have no self-worth, we have no self-esteem. So, using esteem building phrases helps children identify and acknowledge their own positive qualities and abilities. If a child relies only on that external praise, they will define what they think and feel about themselves only based on what others think. This is a huge issue for self-esteem and motivation. So, an esteem building statement, the opposite of praise, would sound like this. A child is playing the keyboard, turns to you and says, did you like that song? Did you hear that song? Did you like it? You would say, wow, you worked really hard on playing that song. You sound so excited about how it turned out. And it sounds like you had a lot of fun playing it. You're reflecting their work, you're reflecting how they felt, reflecting their excitement about sharing it. This can feel like you're withholding something from them, but it's helping the child to look back inside and say, wow, yeah, I did feel really good playing that, and that matters. So sometimes I'll even say after like a kid might kind of turn back inward and say like I did feel really good. And then I might follow up with, and that matters a lot. And that's really important. And that's a really important thing to remember. So I'll follow up with kind of the validation of that. So you can see how this is almost more instead of a two-step thing, this becomes almost a four-step thing that happens. So we don't want to never praise someone, but we really want to balance it with esteem building statements. So I love teaching parents this skill. It's one of the first things that I like to teach. I send this usually within the first month of working with parents. I also always suggest parents read The Whole Brain Child because it talks about things like this. But so this is a technique that I think is really powerful for parents to start using because they have the magic in changing some of this. They have some of the biggest power in building esteem. So this is one of the ways I like to bring parents in that way and caregivers. Attunement, so many ways that we can attune. Attune is really this way of being with and connecting with someone else in the room and matching their energy in some way or matching them somehow. Maybe that's physically, maybe that's in emotion, and finding a way to connect on that way. So I have here like a list of ways that we can attune to somebody, matching movements, facial expressions. We do that by observing. Can we tell how safe they feel? How much are they exploring? Using empathy, spending time in their shoes, maintaining safety. So attunement takes a lot of different levels of connecting. This one can be a little bit more tricky, oddly enough, because attunement comes in so much in early relationships, like 0 to 3. We need a lot of attunement with our caregivers. I almost think of attunement in that basic way of if you're looking at a baby and a baby smiles at you, you're gonna smile back and use the baby voice. Like that's attunement. So you match, you see what happens, and then you're gonna match back. Ways that we can do this in session, very active ways of doing something in session. Follow the leader games, having a parent come in and a child has like a stop and go sign, and the therapist and the caregivers are playing different instruments, and they just watch. They watch the kids, the leader. Musical Simon Says, artistic Simon Says, doing different Simon Says games, guessing games, charades, guess the facial expression, guess the dance. It's all about trying to match, trying to guess and get where the other person is and is coming from. You can use feeling cards, visuals, movement visuals. Again, I have loads of this stuff. It's in my umbrella community in the resource library if you're interested in getting the supports, the visual supports on these things. Ideally, caregivers are active in session members of this, or they're doing it at home for homework. So sometimes, for a great example, if you work with kids in schools, if you're able to, and you can send stuff home, you can, have a printout of like, hey, this is what we're doing in session. I'd love for this to happen at home, and if you have parents who are like, yeah, we'd love to, then you can, ask the kid, how is this going at home? What does it look like? So, always trying to reach out and bring that into other contexts. Tracking and reflecting. These are two non-directive play therapy skills. These come from, if you're interested in more very non-directive work, child-centered play therapy, the UNT, University of North Texas, tons of information there and trainings on how to do this. Additionally, I have a training coming out at the end of August that is like creative child counseling skills that incorporates these skills but expands them creatively. How do you kind of do that as a creative therapist? So tracking is essentially being a narrator. So if you are with a kid who's doing pretend play, you're narrating what's happening. So that it shows a lot. Tracking shows that you care, that you're interested, that they're great just the way that they are. They're important. It validates their world. What this looks like is a narrator. So let's say a kid is, sitting here at my table, and they are drawing on a post-it note. What I might say for some tracking things, I might say like, you are just you're just going to town on that post-it note. Oh, you wanted to choose red to go with that pink post-it note. It's narrating what they're doing. If you overdo this, kids will tell you, or they will give you a side eye, which I'm always like, I'm doing that too much, huh? Mhm. So totally normal because this isn't something that happens in day-to-day life. And so I tell parents that as well if they start to use this too. Reflection is when you reflect back or paraphrase. This is also a very basic therapy skill, just looks a little different with kids. You're reflecting what you see. So reflective statements communicate that you understand the message that's coming out of them. You're not afraid to name the emotion or at least attempt to name it. It helps children build vocabulary and understanding of their own emotions. So let's keep going with this example of a kid who's drawing on this post-it note on my table, and they start to like push their pen down and really like go to and they're bending the marker tip. I might say like, wow, it seems like your body is really wanting to get some energy right out, and maybe it's frustration or annoyance or anger, and it seems like you're really feeling some of that anger right now. That's how I would reflect what I'm seeing emotionally. Then the kid, maybe let's say the kid then says, I'm not angry. I might then say like, oh, it did not feel safe for me to say that I was angry, or it didn't feel okay for me to say that it was angry. You want me to know that you're not angry. Even if they're deflecting, I'm gonna reflect what they are saying to communicate. I get what you're saying. I get it. I'm gonna follow you. I'm not gonna push back all the time. I will challenge you later. But like maybe right now when I'm working on reflecting, I'm building the safe experience that you don't want to go to anger right now, and I hear you. So it's really using those things functionally. So again, this is part of what I will tell parents, what this sounds like, what to do with parents. So framing this and how to do this with parents. As a side note, if you're really interested in doing this, filial therapy is a big training within play therapy of bringing like parent playtime and kind of teaching parents how to use these skills. Additionally, again, University of North Texas also has a training program that is built specifically for parents to use these skills. Lots of different places to gain much more deeper dives of this training, of this technique and these types of things. So I will often teach these skills to parents, and if they can, come into session and practice them so I can see them. And it's kind of like I label it like it's special playtime. Older kids, I'm just going to be like, it's like our special hangout time. And so parents will be using these skills. I'll prep kids and say, like, you might hear your parents say some of the things that I say, but this is really the special time, the only time that they're going to do that. Might feel weird. Let us know if it's too much, then we'll back off. So giving kids still some of that control. But then my role becomes coaching the parent. parents, coaching them to use it, coaching them on how it went in session. When the parents feel confident enough, then they bring that to home. Then they don't need me there. Parents keep doing this at home. We'll start working on something new. So this becomes something to take outside of the therapy room. Repair skills. I did a whole episode on apologies. If you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen to the HERE method. Oh, repair. Helping caregivers understand how important repair is. Rupture is a natural part of relationships. No one is perfect. We are all going to get stressed out. Parents will inevitably miss a tune. Someone might lose their cool, make a mistake, whatever it is. That is going to happen. So we need to normalize this for parents because it normalizes it for kids. But it's important to emphasize that repair is where golden opportunities lie. When children hear adults take accountability for their behavior, apologize well, and try harder at their own emotional skill development, it normalizes mistakes, it repairs the rupture, and it sets healthy expectations of emotional boundaries that last a lifetime. I have to say that last part. It sets healthy expectations of emotional boundaries that last a lifetime. So a lot of times I'll talk to parents and I'll be like, listen, you practicing, using this healthy apology strategy, trying harder at your own emotional skill development will in 30 years lead your kid to a healthy relationship with not only their partner, but their own kids if they decide to have that and decide to have a partnership. This is like building blocks of healthy relationships. And the parents, caregivers have the power to do that. So I love to bring in the long-term effects of that because we know that this sets up huge expectations of relationships when we do this early on with kids. So, the art of apologizing. Here I don't have this. Here I don't have the here method. Here I did this before I came up with the acronym here. But so what I will do is I will outline what that looks like. So you're going to acknowledge the offense or acknowledge what you did. You're going to explain what happened. And I would say this one, I almost think not always. Now, explaining why something happened can come later, expressing remorse and making amends. So the here method is really you're going to talk about hurt, which is first and foremost the what happened. So wow, I'm really sorry. I imagine I really hurt your feelings when I yelled too loudly. The next one is you're going to express. So you're going to do that genuinely and you're going to say it in like a way that feels real. You're going to say it slow. And it's clear. Wow, I'm really, really sorry that I lost my cool back there. And, my voice got way too loud. I imagine that made you feel really scared or frustrated. So there I'm doing the H, I'm imagining how they might feel hurt. And E, I'm expressing it genuinely. A is going to be accountability. I'm going to take accountability. That's my fault that I lost my cool, and I'm going to work really hard on doing better with that. So, I'm going to work on taking deep breaths, XYZ. So you're going to kind of have that accountability piece. What are you going to do? And so that is the repair and the amends. So, no buts, no blaming. You're taking accountability. You're going to talk about what you're going to do differently in the future. So I will teach these things to parents. Again, go right here is where you can plug in. Go listen to the episode about HERE, HEAR, the HERE method for apologies. I do that so much with parents and I love it. And lastly, this is a big one. I feel like this is like one of the last ladders, one of the last rungs on the ladder, not usually the first thing we can do, but bringing psychoeducation into this with parents, giving them different strategies. But we need to talk about co-regulation. So the idea that children are biologically wired to be emotionally connected to caregivers as they rely on them for safety. They rely on them for food, for shelter, for emotional safety. We are wired to seek safety with our caregivers. When children are dysregulated, they are most often not able to achieve self-regulation on their own. Adults can't do that all the time. Kids need co-regulation. So they need support. This is a lot of relational neuroscience, interpersonal neurobiology. They're wired to match or borrow regulation from an adult in the room. It's not saying that kids can't develop some self-regulation tools and strategies, but when there is a supportive figure in the room who can practice co-regulation, it shows them that regulating is safe and it shows their system how to do it and how to move from a really dysregulated state to a softer state. They feel that and that happens for them. So then later in life, they know exactly what that template looks like. It builds the foundation to self-regulate later in life. It's modeled to them. So when you are a caregiver, the idea is that putting your own oxygen mask on first, taking that deep breath, and then diving into the pool and helping and saying, wow, this is really, really hard. You got a really big cut on your knee and this is really scary. What we're going to do is we're going to go get a band-aid. We're going to clean everything up. We're going to take a few deep breaths along the way. I'm here. You're safe. Versus like, oh my God, hold on. I need to go get something. That is going to only enhance dysregulation. Really trying to focus. Again, we're all not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. We want to achieve better if we can. So bringing this all together, I love doing this with, role playing is a really great one. So sometimes we can't achieve this in the moment. Sometimes we can if we have someone in session and something happens, like there's a rupture in session. Amazing opportunity for repair and practicing co-regulation. When we teach this, so we can of course have parents try to practice this at home, but I also like to do this with role playing. So with like role stories, role playing, like when I use D&D in sessions, I bring parents in and we do D&D with parents. Great way to practice this. And acting out movie scenes. These are different ways that we can get parents involved to practice these skills, practice co-regulation, teaching parents ahead of time what this looks like. So your kid's gonna, as an example, what this might look like in session. Let's say in a D&D session, I have parents coming in with a kid, and I know there's going to be a combat scene. We're going to fight like one of the big scary people. So I might prep the parent and say, listen, this is going to be like intense, and it's going to be, we're going to fight this bad, scary guy, and there might be some pressure. There's going to be some time pressure. You might see your kid getting a little dysregulated. Your job is to stay regulated, and your job is to take those deep breaths and say, wow, this is really hard. Reflect maybe some of the things you're seeing. That's their job, is to maintain regulation. My job is to help coach and connect. But that's how this might look in session. So, questions. This is the end of the presentation, but this is where I would ask questions. This is a lot of information. There is so much. This is just skimming the surface of working with parents. And these are just some of the basics that I hope are helpful if you're curious about expanding your work to include caregivers and parents. I would love to hear your questions about this topic. I think I'm going to turn this episode into a pod course. So if you have questions, then that will actually go into the course. I will probably have a whole section, self-study section, that's like common questions, XYZ. And or, if I turn this into a pod course, then there's always a live element where there's like a live Q&A call. It will be a question I will have ready to answer in that Q&A call. So please, Kate at Creative Therapy, blah, 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 blah. Kate at creativetherapyumbrella.com. Email me your questions. Reach out on Instagram. I would love to hear from you because I want the learning to continue for this. Everyone is in a totally different situation. This looks really different depending on every clinician, your comfort, all of those different things. I'd love to hear your questions about this topic because most likely there are at least 10 other people wanting to ask it and would love the answer. So please reach out. If I don't know, I'll look for the answer. Again, a lot of the materials talked about in this training, this slide deck in itself, all of this stuff is available in our community membership. So we have two levels. There's the resource library, which is really just like visuals, therapist education materials, slideshows, PDFs of emotional regulation, worksheets, every visual movement card you could think of under the sun. That's our resource library membership, so you can check that out. We will be announcing, I would say get on the newsletter because it's gonna be a soft launch of our umbrella resource community where we meet once a month, dive deep into these topics and that stuff. That's gonna be a soft launch that I think I'm only gonna announce to newsletter subscribers because we're just getting it going again, and I'm trying to really get it structured and settled for what people want. So, but the resource library is open all the time. You can join whenever. The umbrella community, that is much higher level of supports. That's only open twice a year. So, check out again if you're interested more in that. The link is in our show notes where you can find more info on that. But reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you think about the rebrand. Tell us if you are on YouTube and you're watching us now on YouTube. We'd love to hear about it, what you want more of. Reach out. We love the community. I love hearing from you. I hope that things are well. I hope that this is helpful and inspires you in some way or supports you in some way. And of course, be creative. Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed part two of bringing parents and caregivers in as co-therapists. These are just some of the strategies that I use, some of the starting points that I think are really fun. Currently, I'm expanding so much on that. Like right now, I'm bringing families and parents in the D&D sessions that I run for kids to strengthen connection and, meet challenges together. And it's really, really fun. So there's tons of ways to do this. I hope that some of these strategies and tips that I mentioned in these past two episodes are helpful for you, or at least give you a springboard to start somewhere or expand on what you're already doing awesomely in your sessions anyway. So stick around. We have a really great interview next week with Samantha Foote. She has an she has this amazing way of supporting parents, specifically of neurodivergent children. And it's just a fantastic episode. So stick around for our theme on supporting parents and caregivers. And of course, be creative.